Hey guys, Jeremy and Shawn here from menzagaming.net, bringing you a video today. It's going to be a bit of a list writing workshop with the upcoming Menza Open. Lists due this Saturday. We're all working hard down at Menza trying to get our lists ready. Obviously Shawn's TOing, but he will be helping us today with the workshop. Before we get started with that though, we're going to discuss the Norris1000.
Yep.
For a couple of reasons. Obviously because the event just ran last weekend. It was a really smooth, successful event.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it also is important because the Norris1000 was an 1,000-point event, and it so happens that the Menza Open's core list, we're looking at 1,000-point core lists. So we're going to use our Norris lists as kind of the cornerstone of actually constructing Menza Open lists using the Triboard format. So how did you find Norris1000, Shawn?
Yeah, the event went very smoothly. I think you couldn't really ask for much more as a TO. I mean, it was a massive event. I think they had close to 80 sign-ups, and 80 paid. I think it's 74 or something like that. It was
in the 70s, yeah, it was a lot.
So no, it was a great event. Ran really smoothly. Terminal worked well once again. Community Comp Terminal really doing its job there and holding up its own. But yeah, the event went very smoothly. I had a good time. How'd you go?
Yeah, well, like I really enjoyed the game. I don't think I've played 1,000-point games in a while. And it was really refreshing to play 1,000-point games. Obviously, the games go a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
Than 1350. It obviously scales all the way down.
Yeah. But
setting up there was no anxiety. I'm not saying that 40k should be an anxious process, but you guys know me. But often it can be a bit of an anxious process with pre-game and all that kind of stuff because you're worried about getting the game into the 2.5 or 2 hours you've got allotted. And fitting an 1850-point game into 2 hours or 2.5 hours is a bit of a struggle. But with 1,000 points and at the hour and a half we had, there was no problems at all. So just, you could be really relaxed. You could have a chat to your opponent. You could have a look at his models while he was setting up. There was just this sense that it was very relaxed, and you were able to really enjoy that playing aspect of it, which I really kind of appreciated.
Yeah, you seem to get that a lot of those smaller events. I mean, I think Masquerade was very similar to that in terms of vibe. Like it was very relaxed. People had more than enough time to get their games in, and I think it just it's just a proving point of like how much the game has expanded. Like 1850 is not what 1850 used to be. Do you know what I mean? There's so many more models now, and you'll see some of this stuff in like the latest releases from Death Watch and upcoming Gene Stealer Cults as well. Like
all the free points that you can get now, like in Battle Company, and obviously you've got your War Convocation. Now you've got Gene Stealers that summon, demons that summon. So many models on the board that often not only require all these models, but they require like logistics to get them in play. So you kind of have to say, I'm summoning this unit, now I have to deep strike, now I have to place it. And you spend all this time on something that wasn't even part of the 1850 points.
Correct.
So yeah, massive just inflation of game.
Yeah, but no, I really enjoyed the smaller game format. And it's interesting because you get like a much more distilled representation of what these units are, because every unit at these lower points values is worth more. So you're really relying on what you've got, and it makes it more of a game of chess.
And I was exactly. And I was able to really hone in on my list and say these things were good, these things were bad, a lot easier. Because you can kind of, as you said,
more in a vacuum.
Yeah, you can say this is how this performed, and you can remember because you only have a few units. So over those 4 games, you can remember how they performed in each game. So do you want to go through our list and kind of how we went with it?
Yeah, we'll do it really briefly. Do you want to start?
Sure. So I was running an Eldar CAD. So there were no formations or anything, just a very basic Eldar CAD. I had a Spirit Seer as my HQ, just a basic Spirit Seer. My troops choices, I had a unit of Dire Avengers, 10 Dire Avengers in a Wave Serpent. The Wave Serpent had the Scatter Laser and the Shuriken Cannon, which is a pretty standard loadout. I also had as a troops choice 6 Skyrunner Wind Riders with a Warlock in the unit. So there were 7 bikes in total, and I had the 2 Scatter Lasers. You can have 1 per 3. So I had the 2 Scatter Lasers in a unit of 6 bikes with a Warlock. The Warlock's obviously there to cast Shrouding, which is very effective when you have 1 unit. So he casts Conceal on the unit. They can jink for a 2-up cover save. So if you're running a single unit of Wind Riders, I think it's a very good idea to put a Warlock in there. So there was a Warlock there with my Dire Avengers as my troops. Then I had, as a fast attack option, as an elites option, I had Striking Scorpions. Now, I've never used them before, and I decided to bring them because I was running a 0 comp list, and I kind of wanted to run a friendly-ish style Eldar unit that doesn't see much play. Obviously because it was a friendly event, but also I wanted to test them, to be honest with you. I wanted to see what they could do. So there was a unit of Striker Scorpions, 7 of them, with the Exarch, and the Exarch had the Scorpion's Claw upgrade, which is effectively a Power Fist at initiative. So he's only strength 3, but it's strength 6 at initiative. In a challenge, he gets to have an extra attack for every initiative point he has higher than his opponent. So I did get him in a challenge against Anthony Quilty's Necron Lord. So he has a 4 initiative buffer there. So he actually went in with, I believe, 8 attacks on the charge.
Pretty good.
Didn't do much. I think he did 1 wound, but it was pretty cool.
That's Necrons for you.
Yeah, that's Crons. But that's a different topic. I had a unit of Dark Reapers as well. I had 6 Dark Reapers, including the Exarch with Starshot missiles. That's what lets them shoot Strength 8 AP3 missiles. Exarch obviously gets to shoot twice, so you're shooting 7 potentially missiles per turn. A lot of DACA.
Yep.
And I also had a unit of the Monofilament battery, so the Volsrath battery with the Shadow Weavers. They're always kind of pretty stalwart, a unit. They always kind of do okay, depending on what you're shooting. But it's nice to have that artillery platform in your army. So that rounds out my army. It was quite small. It was very easy to manage. But as we'll discuss in a second, the biggest challenge I had was that I didn't have enough units that had a forward board presence.
Yeah, right.
I had a bit of a gunline style list, which in this first mission especially was very difficult to leverage that list to go onto objectives.
Yep.
So I struggled with my list. I don't think it was particularly optimized, but it was 0 comp, and I feel like it had the capacity to perform very well. Yeah, and I finished up on 2 wins. Nice. So I was pretty happy with that. How did you go?
Not as good as that. I guess I'll go into my list really quickly. So my list was a little bit smaller than yours, and single digit model count, which is interesting. So I had 9 models. I had a Grandmaster. I was playing my Grey Knights and the Nemesis Strike Force. I had a Grandmaster with the Liber Demonica and Nemesis Demon Hammer and a Psy Cannon. Mm-hmm. I had a unit of Terminators with another Psy Cannon and another Hammer. Then I had 2 Dread Knights with the jump packs and hammers, and I also ran Drago. And
so how many models is that?
9.
9 models.
Yeah. So I had 3 units on the board, 5 kill points, 9 models, and I found that despite playing on a 4x4 tabletop, I just couldn't cover ground quick enough, and I just got outvalued, I guess. I played my first game against Eldar, who had 2 units of 6 of the Dark Reapers.
Yeah.
Now we know they haven't got the AP2, and you would think that that's not good enough, but they just Strength 8 when they're shooting me with Strength 8, they just put wounds on the Dread Knights and they went down real quick.
2s.
Yeah. So I had a pretty bad weekend all up in terms of games. I think I won 1 game. But no, look, it was interesting. Again, we talk about the distilled representation of units, and I really felt the weaknesses of Grey Knights, their lack of mobility, their lack of offensive shooting, and in addition that loves shooting, and it was just too hard to get into close combat and to get value out of the units I had.
So let's take a step back and kind of say what were our success stories, what were our let's say the units that didn't quite perform to what we expected. Do you want to go through, since you just mentioned yours, how you feel each kind of unit performed?
Sure. I had a bit of success with
obviously, your Dread Knights are like... obviously, the Dread Knight... 2 Dread Knights are good. You paid comp for them. You paid 2 comp for those things.
So a lot of people sort of looked at the list and thought, ooh, this is really hard. And I was like, just shoot it. You'll be okay. And my opponents...
took your advice.
Took my advice. They shot me and they were just fine. So, look, Dread Knights are really good at applying pressure to an area, but when they haven't got weapons on them and stuff like that, like when they haven't got shooting weapons... Unless they make combat, they don't really do much. My best case scenario, I think, 1 Dread Knight managed to kill a unit of Dire Avengers, and then the other one died to Overwatch when he charged. So, look, it's sometimes hard. It's hit and miss. Whenever you play an army with such a low model count, the dice rolls mean a lot more, and there's a lot more variance. Like when you lose a few Dire Avengers, it's not a big deal. You got the rest of the unit. When you lose 3 wounds off a Dread Knight, it's devastating.
Yeah. So the Dread Knights, they've got that stat line where they're very threatening.
Absolutely.
They've got the stat line that you need to be really, really powerful unit, but the 4 wounds can sometimes just not let them down a little bit. And no FNP, they don't have a second defensive modifier.
Yeah. I think it's just when you get with that anything AP2. One list I played against had a fair amount of AP2 shooting, and I'm like, well, I can't not charge. I have to go in, so I sort of balled forward, and then I just got shot down. Didn't make combat.
So how about your Drago star? Was that?
It's not mobile enough. It's always been a flaw with the Grey Knights, or a shortcoming, I should say, with the Grey Knights, is that they're very slow. And even when I did make combat and then I charged things,
Yeah.
obliterated it, and then they ran away and I couldn't even chase them down. So
Yeah.
feels bad, man.
Okay. Well, so that's, yeah. So
How about yourself?
Well, I mean, I obviously ended up with the 2 wins, 2 losses. I was pretty happy with the performance of my stalwart units that I've come to generally include in a lot of lists. So, for example, the Spirit Seer I think is a very reliable core choice. He's 70 points. He's like a librarian. Obviously, he doesn't have the combat ability. But the way I was using him is I've started doing that quite a lot recently. I did it at EastCon as well. He's a level 2 Psyker, obviously. So what he can do, he can roll on, I believe it's Sanctic, Runes of Battle, and Telepathy.
Yep.
And I think he can roll Div as well. So what I do is I roll one roll on Runes of Battle, and I almost always take it defaulted back to the Primaris, which is Conceal. Actually, before I continue, I actually roll on Divination first. Before I do that, I roll one roll on Divination, and if I get a really good spell on Divination, I consider keeping it. So a good spell might be Norse Cover. Another one might be Precog.
Yep.
So if I get one of the good spells, I consider keeping it. Otherwise, I default back to Prescience, and then I roll on Runes of Battle and default back to Conceal. So I have a Psyker that can conceal his unit. We give it Shrouding, and as well as give it Prescience or something like Norse Cover or Precog. So I run him with my Dark Reapers, and what he does is he gives the Dark Reapers Conceal, which means that if they're in Ruins, they now have a 2-up cover save, which makes them, from going from quite weak and vulnerable, they become really difficult to kill. And he also can give them Prescience, which is really valuable in such powerful shooting, and something like Norse Cover. If he does roll Precog, then he gets a 2-up rerollable cover save, which is really good.
Yep.
So there's some really good options there with the Spirit Seer. So he's always, and in those Dark Reapers, is a really high-performing unit. The bikes normally are very good, but in this tournament, they weren't good because they didn't have the pressure, the bully unit to support them. Because I didn't have a unit to kind of pressure the middle of the board, the bikes kind of became my bully unit, or became a forward, a unit that had to carry more weight.
Yep.
And as a result, they just didn't get enough work done. They were a primary target. They died very early almost every game. They weren't that great.
Even with the 2-up cover save?
Yeah, because against in my first game, I was playing a Scions opponent, and he just, I mean, admittedly, I failed my morale check, but he killed, I think, 5 of them he got first turn and killed 5 of them. They're just Eldar bikes, like, they go down. So my Vol's Wrath were pretty decent. I also always give them a Warlock, which means that they can also conceal up for a 2-up cover save in Ruins. And the Dire Avengers were a disappointment.
Yeah, right.
In the Wave Serpent, they just didn't get enough done. When they come out, they're too vulnerable. So they were I was using them as like a bit of a reserved kind of counterpunch unit. But my whole army was backfield, so unfortunately I didn't have enough to pressure forward. And lastly, the Striking Scorpions, as expected, were
Bit of a letdown.
Bit of a letdown. Like, they're kind of good when they've got Stealth and Shrouding until they shoot or assault. So they were running around with a 2-up cover save, but some of the tables we played on just didn't have enough cover, and they just don't pack enough of a punch to really act as a bully unit. So, all in all, I think that the list kind of did perform in the way that I kind of expected the units like the Dark Reapers to be successful.
Yep.
But then I was a little bit disappointed with my Dire Avengers and Scorpions.
Other choices. Yeah,
But,
interesting.
I think if I could take it back, knowing that we're on a 4x4 table, I would probably, if I wanted to be a little bit more competitive, would have included a cast of players, which a lot of people might have seen me running some Harleys before, and the Harleys are a really good bully unit that support these shooting elements of Eldar really well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Traditional Eldar. No, it's good.
It's a bit of fun.
Yeah. No, it was a good weekend though. We had a lot of fun. I had some very funny moments. I had some really good ones against Jared Brehow, against Jared's KDK. Everyone, you look at it, you go, Grey Knights versus KDK, what could go wrong? Everything. Mishapping, perilsing. It was quite a funny game I had. And it was interesting though. It's a bit of fun.
That means Jared got 1 win, at least. That's
at least one, yes.
That's good. Always good to hear.
Yep.
Hi, Jared.
Menza Gaming, beating up Menza Gaming.
Yeah, no, that's good. So yeah, it was obviously really well run. I like their choice to go on the 4x4 board. I think I would like to see more of those events. I would like to see even smaller tournaments. Like, I mean, let's not take this too far, but even like 800 point, 850 point events where you can turn up and just smash out 5 games in a day and not feel like I mean, admittedly, I was pretty tired at the end of that day.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't feel, as I said, anxious about trying to cram everything in. You just kind of have fun. You can chat to your opponent. You can talk about how their last game was and not feel like you're robbing them of time they need in the game.
Yeah. But yes, no, once again, really successful event. Congratulations to the Norris team on pulling that off. It was a great event.
And it was a joint effort by them. We had a lot of people walking around supporting.
Yes.
So really well done, boys.
Very professionally run event.
Yeah.
So congratulations to them. Thanks everyone for attending. It was a good event. I had a lot of fun. Thanks to my opponents. That was great. In our next video, we'll probably...
So what we're going to do in the part 2 is we're going to use our Norris lists, which we've just kind of... And that's why we've spent a bit of time analysing them. We're going to use these lists as a foundation to create lists for the Menza Open. So we were kind of thinking, let's do a bit of a workshop for Menza Open. Given that we have 1,000-point lists that we've just we've just showcased and we've just kind of had an experience where we can kind of say this was good, this was bad. Let's refine these lists for a uncomped metagame.
Yep.
And then look at what sideboards might support those lists appropriately. Yeah. So that's going to be part 2, is going to be a focus on the Menza Open. How would we take a list like this, a 0 comp list, yours was a 3, was it?
4.
A 4?
Yep.
And how would we mold these into lists that we feel could be competitive
and make them successful?
Uncomped? Because a lot of people are daunted by uncomped, but I think it's surprising how little changes you actually need to do to make a list competitive.
Yeah. So we're going to go through that. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this. Cheers.